Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast.
Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, it's Michael here with another edition of Oilers Live. This time it's going to be the Oilers postmortem as the Oilers get swept by the Colorado Avalanche 4 games in straight sets in overtime tonight. Disappointing loss, obviously. Disappointing series, obviously. But Avs are one hell of a hockey team. I'll give them that. I've got as my guest tonight Mr. Mike Dirsa, part of the Heavy Hockey Network, also from Straight Off the Pipe podcast. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks for having me. Wish it was under different circumstances.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, I mean it wasn't. It was an uphill battle, that's for sure, and the Oilers gave it all they got. Some really gutsy performances by a lot of players on this team. It's just coming out now, some of the injuries. Obviously, we got torn hip flexor for Darnell Nurse, which is unbelievable that he played through 3 series and against the teams that he played against with that injury. And then Leon Draisaitl, I mean, the guy is, if that's not one of the most gutsy performances you've watched in a playoff game, let alone the playoffs themselves since he got that injury. I don't know what you've been watching. I mean, the guy's been absolutely great. Lots to be proud of with this Oilers team, and lots to be disappointed with. Let's start with thoughts on the game tonight. If you want, I can give mine, or you can give yours, or you go ahead and let us know what you're thinking.
I thought it was going back to Denver. I thought that, they were in a good spot heading into the third, and they were going to lock it down and go back to Denver for Game 5. And I don't want to be hypercritical of Mike Smith, but him coming out to play that puck and kind of hitting the ref and a Chinese fire drill there open the door for Colorado early. And, I kind of look at it like if they were going to beat you in the position you were in, you needed to make them earn it. You couldn't gift them anything. And I think that was a bit of a gift. And once you crack open that door a little bit, they exploit that. They are a good team, but you were in a spot where you should have locked that thing down. I said to you earlier today, I didn't like what I heard out of Tyson Barrie, even though probably what he said was right. And he said, we haven't played our best game yet. Well, you're heading into Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals. Like, what the fuck are you saving it for? You can't gift good teams games. You have to make them earn it. Game 1, I think you sort of gifted him the game, and it just unravels and goes from there. I'm kind of disappointed that they're done in 4. I think if they would have brought their best game, they still might not have won the series, but they could have made a series out of it, and they didn't. So I'm kind of dejected from that.
Yeah. I mean, you make some good points. It's disappointing to hear comments like that because you expect your team to bring the best best game every game, especially when it's Western Conference Final. And if Barry's saying that and he didn't feel that way, well, you know, stand up and start playing. And I don't know if I 100% agree with that. I think our team, our favorite team, the Oilers, obviously we knew early on before the playoffs that there were some deficiencies in the lineup. Didn't help that Nurse was playing injured, and it didn't help that Draisaitl got injured. And frankly, it's hard to win a playoffs when you're running one top line. And when Draisaitl went down with the injury, that's what it ended up being, because he couldn't drive his own line. And so for them to get as far as they did, Western Conference Final, and not look any more exhausted than they did, to me is a testament to the character of these top guys, and their will to win. I mean, Connor McDavid tried to put the game on his back tonight as much as he could, and he just couldn't. He couldn't do it, and it's a sad fate for the Oilers, but I think that there's lots to look forward to. There's some light at the end of the tunnel. Koskinen's gone now at the end of this year, and he's had some good games for the Oilers, but he's had more. There's been more risk with it putting him out there than there's been reward. And so, this team, there was a point at which in the season prior to February 10th that we didn't think they'd make the playoffs, or I didn't think they'd make the playoffs. Maybe you still had some belief. But not only did they make the playoffs, they were one of the top 3 teams down the stretch. And then they make the playoffs, and still nobody gives them credit. A lot of folks still had L.A. winning that first round. Everybody had Calgary winning the second round. And so
Calgary's winning the cup still. If you
talk
to their fans.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, look, I'm pretty happy with the way this season turned out. Obviously, a sweep is not the way I envisioned the Western Conference Final. But I'll say this is all credit due to the Colorado Avalanche. They have a hell of a team. Outside of goaltending and Francouz, however it's pronounced, and apologize to him for the for the pronunciation, but he wasn't tested a whole ton, and when he was, I think the Oilers were getting pucks by him. Obviously tonight they got 5 by him. But this Avalanche team has very few deficiencies. When you've got Helm and you've got Cogliano playing your fourth line, that's a fourth line that guys would love to have in this league. I'd love to have that fourth line. And so the Oilers got some work to do. I don't think there's anybody, save some Oilers fans, who thought this was a Stanley Cup contending team. Outside of Edmonton, and I think that it was. I did feel like it was possible, but I felt like McDavid would have had to
do what he did.
do what he did, and frankly, that just kind of ran out on us, and I don't want to take anything away from the Colorado Avalanche. There's a lot of things that pissed me off about this series, but at the same token, Colorado was far and away just the better team all around.
You couldn't ask any more out of what you got from Connor, Leon, and Zach Hyman tonight. I mean, they played phenomenal hockey games tonight.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we've got something to build on. I mean, who knows what happens now in the offseason, but I just don't think this team gets any worse. Right? Like, I think, look, if the team gets worse, then Holland is royally fucked up. Let's put it that way. Because now there's some of these things that are coming off the books that allow us to do some things, right? And there'll be heavy debate on whether to re-sign Kane or try to re-sign Kane. That's not a given. There'll be heavy debate on what to do with Puljujärvi, who, for the first time, I had, and sorry to the Puljujarvi fans out there, but tonight was one of those nights where I looked at him and I thought he was a massive liability out there playing on that top line, and that hasn't always been the case, but tonight was one of those cases, and certainly it's, there's going to be some recency bias going into the offseason for Oilers fans who will remember this outing as they go into whether we should, make a play to keep him on the roster or not. And those people, there's some people on Twitter who seem like they're close to him or know people in his circle who are suggesting that he's gone anyway. That wouldn't surprise me. But there's lots, look, at the end of the day, there's some really good pieces on this team. It would have been nice to see Holloway a little bit more, just as something to kind of tease us going into the off season. We didn't really get a look at him. This might have been Kassian's best game since 2017, right? Like, he played. He was there. He was drawing penalties. He was making some hits. I'm not sold on Kassian. But hey, at the end of the day, I mean, all of this to say, I feel good about this Oilers team. I think there's obviously deficiencies, and Colorado exploited every opportunity to do that. They're the team. Dash is watching on Twitch right now, and he says they're the team we aspire to be, and he's 100% right. That's what we need to be, and we have the main parts. John Wynn on YouTube says Jesse didn't grow this playoff and McLeod grew a lot. I agree, right? There's some guys, playoffs start to bring out some of these key players, and McLeod was one of them. Hey, I thought Fogle, after he missed those couple games, he was outstanding tonight. One of the best players.
He had a good game today.
Yeah.
I think with Puljujarvi today, he looked like a third liner on the top line. I think he's a very responsible player.
He's got a monkey the size of King Kong though on his back right now.
Well, he's in the paint. He's in the right area, and he can't cash. But I think he learned this playoffs to have a little bit more of a physical edge to his game. Like he's been looking to make contact with people, and that wasn't the case before. So I think there's been some growth there, but it was a blessing in disguise kind of when he went to the room and Zach Hyman gets put out there with Connor and Leon, and then we took over, but it's hard to beat that team when you shorten your bench. Like you've dressed 11 forwards, Puljujarvi goes to the room and you're sitting Dylan Holloway. Like, I don't think.
Yeah, we played three lines all night.
I don't think Holloway touched the ice after the first period.
Yeah, I don't. I meant to look up his play time before we got on tonight, but it wasn't much.
Yeah, no, yeah. I firmly believe he didn't go back on the ice after the first period.
Yeah, but like, you couldn't have expected much from him. I still think it was a bit of a surprise to play him tonight.
For sure.
3 minutes. 3 minutes, 27 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they when you've got Brad Malone playing 8 minutes.
And he was a +1.
Yeah. I thought Brad Malone came in, played 2 solid games for us.
Brad Malone could be on your penalty kill any day of the week. I think he's strong there. Like, I think he's more beneficial to this team. The last 2 games, I saw more out of him that was beneficial than I did out of Josh Archibald. Sorry, Archibald lovers, but Brad Malone does a little bit more than just hit. He can hit too, and I think it has more impact because he's a bigger guy. Yeah,
there's a lot of things he does reasonably well. You don't I don't grimace when he gets out on the ice.
No.
And certainly, like, I love watching Archibald lay a hit, but outside of that, there's not much I expect out of him. And I'd be surprised if we see him back. He's going into UFA. We won't see Brassard or Dirsa back likely. Yeah.
Turris, that's funny.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious. I mean, there's some curiosity in this team. There's a lot of the pieces that are still going to be back for next year. How do you feel about Derek Ryan? I mean, he was largely like, no high events with him. I felt like
bullshit penalty.
Yeah, it was a bullshit penalty. Although in fairness, I mean, he did do the this a little bit of a slew foot as well. So, but at the same time, he's being interfered with by two players.
Yeah.
On his way to the puck.
Yeah, you either don't call anything there, or he said two guys. Singling him out there for a chase to the puck, and I don't know. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, I mean, we can complain about the officiating, and I feel Oilers fans have lots to complain about with that.
It was actually better today. We got some calls.
It was better today, but it didn't. It didn't have any effect on the outcome of this series.
No,
just outmatched.
The standard is comical, though. Like some of the brutal shit that's going on gets let go, and then I don't know. Like to me, Cassian deserved a boarding call on Landeskog there. I think the only reason they didn't give it to him is because he kind of let up a little bit. Like he didn't just bury him, and he could have. And then,
yeah, I mean, you could argue on both sides. I mean, it was.
There's
the fact that
a lot going on out there.
Yeah,
I mean, Keith was vicious. I mean,
oh yeah, it was just wasn't great officiating, especially for a series deciding game. What'd you think of that final goal, the overtime goal? Would you have called that a high sticking? It was pretty damn close.
Yeah, it's right on the line.
That goes either way, 50-50.
They did that breakdown, and
yeah, no doubt there's going to be a lot of Oilers fans upset about that. I'm not one of them.
When it first happened, I'm like, that's it. It's done. And then there was a little bit of a delay, and I was actually surprised.
Yeah. There's a little bit of talk right now on YouTube about Landeskog. I just want to say, like, the one thing, like, Avs fans are trying to pass him off as some type of angel or something.
Right.
I mean, the guy's had 4 suspensions, in the last 5-6 years. They're all either cross checks to the head or hits from behind. And he gets on the microphone, and this is the only reason I was pissed off, is he gets on the microphone and says, "Well, that's what we were taught when we were kids."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's all that drove me nuts about that is, he could have just said, "Well, it's a bad call. I didn't like the play, and it should be reviewed." But instead, he goes on a sermon and starts talking about, like, come on, man, you've been suspended more times than I think Kane has, for that matter, and you're sending out some. I'm not even trying to defend Kane in that instance, because most Oilers fans would have told you they expected a suspension from that play.
Yeah.
When I first saw it, though, I did think that Kadri was faking it, but it turns out he wasn't. And that's based on reputation alone.
And
yeah,
I don't give a shit if he just broke his thumb or he broke his neck. I mean, you injured him. I mean,
it was a penalty. I mean, well, you do give a shit if he broke his neck, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. It's a suspension. Like
it was
trying
a suspension.
Trying to downplay it because he only broke his thumb. Like, shut up. It was not a good play.
No, it wasn't a good play.
I'm fine with what he got. He got what he deserved, and he would have helped if this would have kept going into Game 5. But
so, did the Oilers deserve a better fate tonight? I mean, was this some stranger says Kadri will miraculously recover for the final? I have no doubt there either. Guys play with broken fingers all the time in the playoffs.
Well, he's going to get 9 days now to get back to health at least. So
yeah. So, did the Oilers deserve a better fate tonight, in your opinion? I mean, you talked about it. You talked about Mike Smith needing a couple. Look, Smith in the first 2 series made saves when we needed them, right?
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't. I said this last time we got on to a post game. Smith's save percentage to me is a little bit misleading. A lot of shots at him and from all angles, and not all of them incredibly difficult saves, but I feel like Smith in the first two series made the saves when we needed them. So he might let in 4, but he didn't let in that 5th when we needed it. And then tonight and game 1 and somewhat actually all through the series, it just wasn't the same for him. In fact, people were saying that going into the series, Edmonton had the goaltending advantage.
Until Darcy Kemper got hurt.
yeah, and that was a downside. But this, look, I mean, Smith needs to be better. I think going into the offseason, obviously that's an area of that you need to work on, right?
In LA you get away with a game 1 debacle.
Yeah,
you get away with it. Against Calgary, you got away with it. But you can't gift good teams games, and that's what happened again in this series. You gift wrap game 1. That was a game that you started the right way. You're in their building, and we score, they score. And you just can't do that. You need a quality start out of your goaltender. In the Western Conference Finals, every time he's on the ice. I mean, you can survive one blowout game. You get lit up. You can survive that, but you can't just gift wrap games. And game 1, it was too easy for them. And Saturday night in Edmonton, you need a save. Bouchard gets burnt. Yeah, you can give Bouch flack for that, and he deserves it. But you need that save there. You can't let the trickler go through the 5-hole. You need to lock it down. You need to bail out your defenseman there. McKinnon tonight, he burnt Smith, from the side there, and it's the same old. He's just not that guy. Like you'd like to see him come out and be aggressive and challenge. And he just, he's big. So use that size. Same thing with Koskinen and Skinner for that matter too. Get out, challenge, take away the net. Nope. Let's just camp on the red line and rely on reflexes. Well, I'm 46. He's 40 years old. Our reflexes aren't what they were when we were 20 anymore. And that's what all you're relying on. I mean, even Graf Fuhr would come out and challenge shooters, and he was a smaller goalie, and he had cat-like reflexes, but he knew if he took away angles, there wasn't as much net to shoot at. And that's been something that's bothered me about Mike Smith since we got him, and it still does. And so there's that. And then the goal to start the third where he comes out and plays the puck, and if you're gonna do that, make sure it gets the fuck out of the zone and doesn't end up in a Chinese fire drill, excuse the expression, in your own end where everybody's running around. I do think like somebody from Colorado kind of gave him a little bit of a jab with their stick and pushed him back, but Nurse was behind him anyways. A little bit
surprised by that one.
And Nurse made a save on that play anyway.
Yeah, and that's been the case the whole playoffs for Mike Smith, were those kind of goals, right? And he lucked out in the timing of them in previous games. But against a team like Colorado, there's just not enough room for error, right?
Right. You open the door and they just slam it wide open and they're in it. I mean, when they took that lead, I thought it was done. I was like, shit, we're not recovering from this. That's it. So give him credit for sending it to overtime. But
yeah, Cassian, the unlikely goal scorer. So
yeah,
for those that don't know, I've created some GIFs out there, and I created a Cassian GIF earlier on in the playoffs, and it was a goal-scoring GIF, and I didn't think I was going to get a chance to use it, but he gave me a chance. Gave it a chance. Some stranger says it's always a gamble with Mike Smith. Agreed. Chuck Wang says, by the way, for those of you that don't know, when I say some stranger, that's actually the fellow's handle on YouTube. And Chuck Wang says, so who do you trade? We're going to get into that, I think. Let's, there's not a lot to talk about in this game, right? Because let's be honest, the game wasn't much different from every other game in this series. The Avalanche, I thought the Oilers' best game was Game 3. They didn't come out with a win then. I thought tonight was close to their, best game of the series. It was definitely McDavid's best game and Draisaitl's best game.
Zach Hyman
too. Yeah, sorry, Hyman. Guy's been a beast too.
And
not enough credit.
Honestly, Nurse stepping up, making a big body check, and probably wincing in pain afterwards led to that goal. It was a great play.
Yeah. No, there were some good plays. I thought the Oilers did well to hang into it, but look, I keep saying it, and I know there's probably some Oilers fans who may disagree. The Colorado Avalanche were too good. They're too deep. They're too there's not enough holes in that lineup. And Cale Makar, I mean, he's brilliant. He's a brilliant defenseman, both sides of the ice. Hard to play against. I really hope that this is a rivalry that we start to see over the next 2-3 years. Like, that's something I want, I would love to see, just because, like, you've got some of the best players on both teams, right? I mean, if a healthy Draisaitl that could drive his own line, if not Kane, and we'll talk about that shortly here, but somebody on Connor's line that can pot the puck in the net. Hyman, who's had a year to factor in. Woodcroft, who's now had a season, probably the best win record we've had in, 10 years, maybe longer, right, since 2006. There's so much room to build on this team. Okay, let's talk about, before we shut her down tonight, we got about a half hour. Let's talk about the Oilers now. What's next? Obviously, they pack the bags, they sit back and post-mortem. What, when you look back at this series, what do you think the Oilers were missing that a team like Colorado has?
It's hard to really dissect that 100% because you're dealing with a really injured Darnell Nurse and a really injured Leon Draisaitl. But I think, our top line, their top line, I'm okay with that trade-off. Your second line, you might need a little bit more punch there, but I think it's deeper in the lineup, like your third and fourth line. That's the difference. And Makar and Taves are a really good pairing. I don't think Nurse and Ceci are quite the same there, even if Darnell's healthy. I think they've got a little bit of a leg up there. Keith and Bouchard, though, I didn't really have much problems with them in this series. I know people are mad at Duncan for the last play there of the game, but he got into a bit of a tug of war and guy broke free and, batted a puck down out of midair and got his own rebound, put it in. If you're looking at that as a deciding factor of a series, I think you've missed the boat because it definitely didn't come down to that play. Bouchard's young. He's going to learn. I think the goal that got Colorado ahead in Game 3 there, I think if he could do that all over again, he'd probably take a different route to the puck or like you said, Saturday night, bang it into the corner. But I like that pairing. I thought Barry and Kulak were really good in this series. I had no issues with them, so I hope Brett Kulak is a piece that they seek out for next season. Dash tweeted out earlier today, that he thought that's the most important signing going forward, and
Yeah, I mean,
there might be something to that.
let's talk about Barry and Kulak because I was pretty happy with Kulak. I mean, if you have him as a third line pairing, you're doing all right for sure.
Yeah.
Barry, though, I thought was a little bit suspect on the breakouts for Colorado. Like, I just felt like they were getting by him a little too easy. Now, I think Barry's has had a remarkable improvement on defense under Manson. So, is there room for him to grow a little bit more? Absolutely. But I just felt like he was a little bit exposed against a good team like Colorado.
I honestly think he had a pretty good playoff. Like, he wasn't getting turnstile like he was
but
in the regular
against a
season.
good team like Colorado, I just felt like he wasn't. He was getting a little bit. Exposed.
I think the issues with him come in your own end along the walls.
Hey, here's the thing: is and there's a lot of talk about Barry right now on YouTube, on Twitch, a couple different other areas. The thing with Barry as well, right, is I actually thought that starting Bouchard on the power play tonight, that was the best the power play looked. Like for
different wrinkle, right?
For a quarter of the season, though, Barry wasn't shooting the puck.
Right.
Like nobody felt like there was any danger of him taking a shot. If Barry did shoot the puck, it was after 10 passes around the horn, and whereas Bouchard, he could shoot it at any time.
Well, the one power play, I think it was the first one they got where they actually could get some zone time there. He was the only shooter, and I think that was a little bit of a problem. Like, you want him to shoot the puck. I got no problem with him shooting the puck, but you want other guys to shoot the puck too, where it's not just a repetitive thing where it's always coming from the same angle and the same spot.
We will see Bouchard, I think, win that spot on the power play going into next year.
Leon wasn't looking to shoot today on the PP until I think it was the second period where he got one away and he just missed.
And some stranger says Barry's shots are always blocked. It's true. I think Dash says ask Burakovsky about the Bush bomb. No doubt.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I mean, that's the thing is he's going to earn his spot on that power play going into next year. So you got to think Barry is expendable for this team. He doesn't offer enough defensive upside to keep him.
Right. He's not a defensive defenseman by any means.
Yeah,
but
the biggest challenge is his contract. 2 more seasons of 4.5.
The thing that Bouchard has that Barry doesn't is he's got more than just a slap shot too. Yeah, that's true, right? Bouchard's got another year to learn a little bit more defensive play. Yeah,
that was his deficiency, right? Like he's actually worse defensively than Barry, which I can't believe I'm saying. But the challenge with Bouchard is he's not a tough guy in the corners. He uses his stick more to defend. Which was his MO in London, and
he has size and reach. So I don't think it's going to be that hard for him to learn how to defend a little bit better.
Yeah, Bryce on YouTube says something. I think what we're all thinking is what it is, boys. I will always love this team, no matter what the playoff results. We made it far. So true. And politicians suck. Good handle. Your Oilers should be damn proud, just outmatched by a better team. Yeah, I think, the Oilers outperformed expectation this year. There was, at many points during the season, we discussed what would be considered success for this season. And I think just a first-round win was considered success for most people. And for some people, they said deep in the playoffs. I think Western Conference Final classifies as deep. Being one of the top 4 teams in the league classifies as deep.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
Matt
sure.
Bender says Oilers are where the Avs were 2 to 3 years ago. Yeah, could be, and I think, Matt, to your point though, the Oilers have a chance, and we'll see. This, I think, is where we see what Ken Holland is made out of. Right, like they have a chance now with some of the contracts that are either expiring or going away. They have a chance to do something, and maybe if Holland can get some creativity, and we've got guys like Holloway coming up, Niemelainen, guys waiting in the woods, that this team, with the right coaches like Manson and Woodcroft, and we'll see what they do to round out the coaching staff. I mean, it's altogether possible that Gulletsson's not back, right? I mean, there is, maybe Woodcroft puts his stamp on that piece. We'll see. I mean, not anything that I've heard, but I think that this is the year. This is the summer. This is finally the time where there are no excuses left anymore. You've made it to the conference final. You've got a good coach or coaches. You've got players that are playing the way they needed to play. I think now the expectation should be Stanley Cup final.
I've I've relented a little bit because in the off season, my whole worry or concern really was our goaltending not being where it needs to be, and I've relented a little bit on that because I think Smith, once he was somewhat healthy, I don't think he's 100%, but he played all right. Played well enough to get us to the Western Conference Final, but I don't know. I just don't think you can win Stanley Cups with the mental kind of gaffes that go on there. Like, I don't think you can gift good teams goals.
Yeah, Smith is not the answer for this team to go all the way.
I don't think so. So,
Yeah.
and I don't think it gets easier for the guy, next year, because every year you tack on, it just makes it that much harder. And, he is what he is, and he wants to play, he wants to win, but I don't know. I don't think he's that guy. So I think you need to look at that. And I don't know if that's something that Ken Holland's going to do. I kind of started thinking today that maybe this team is 2 years from really pushing for it. They've got I think 3 forwards right now that I think in 2 years' time will really help this team. If they're not traded before then, in Bourgault, Savoy, and there's one other one outside of Holloway there. I can't think right now, but I think Dylan Holloway will be a bit of a factor coming next year. I would have liked to see him get some.
Yeah,
more
it's nice
tonight,
to see. Maybe you're thinking of Petrov. I mean, Petrov's been good. He was good in the OHL playoffs this year. Bourgault's been good. I know we talk about Bourgault on Heavy Hockey Group chat. I've had the chance to watch him live. I'm not maybe as convinced that he's going to translate well to the NHL game, but we'll see. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, time tells all those things. I do love the fact, though, that the Oilers have some prospects in the system that are exciting prospects. I mean, you name some of them: Bourgault, Savoy. We haven't mentioned Broberg, right? I mean, we could see Broberg take a step up this year. And every one of those is chips in Holland's, arsenal, whether they're trade chips or anything. And that, to me, that's, that just goes more to the fact that, look, this is, like, I know Holland said he was all in last year, right? Nobody believed that but Ken Holland.
I don't even know if Ken Holland believed that.
I mean,
just a teaser for fans.
I mean, Derek Brassard is not, an all-in play. But this has got to be, I mean, you've got this year and next, I think you got to contend by next year, right? You made it to now. You know how it is, and you know how fans are, right? I mean, this you can kind of stick with where you're at, or you go that next step. And the next step is the Stanley Cup Finals. And losing in the Stanley Cup Finals, I think, would be still a success for this team next year. But that's got to be where we get to. That's got to be, and I know it's tough to be one of the top 2 teams in the NHL. But come on. I mean, we saw what we had. We saw, the superhuman ability of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. And we saw this, like, Leon Draisaitl is a bomb, right? Like, he is, I mean, he was unreal on one leg, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, we have the pieces. We've got some deficiencies. I think, that was what started this conversation. I'd say defense is a deficiency, but that can be worked on through trade. Goaltending is a definitive deficiency. I think Mike Smith had some games that got us, he did get us some wins this go around, but he's not the guy to take you all the way. And so, and then on the forward, I mean, look, this is the time where I think, you've got Yamo's just I think he's getting better, right? Like, he's starting to play really well, especially under Woodcroft's system, and I like the utilization by Woodcroft. You got McDavid and Draisaitl, who proved this year that, especially in the regular season, they can drive 2 lines. And you've got Hyman, who, man, like, he just kept getting better and better as the season progressed. Nuge, I actually was a little bit disappointed with Nuge's year this year, but I'm not disappointed with Nuge. I thought we could have got more out of him. The guy that I don't know what you do with him is Zach Kassian. Like, to me, he's a bit of a boat anchor on the team. But outside of that, I think you got to work on. You got to work on defense and goaltending, and those are priority number 1s for me.
You talked about Cassian basically having, his best game maybe of the season today, but boy, he walks the line of being a liability to being effective better than probably anybody in the NHL. Like, takes that penalty, early and
yeah, but he needs to do that every game, though. That's the problem. Right? Like, when he's on and he's doing that, he's effective. But when he's, there was 1 or 2 games this playoffs where he didn't, register a single hit.
Yeah, he's coasting.
Yeah, and Connor McDavid registered 5.
Yeah.
And to me, that's unacceptable when you're Zach Kassian, right? Like, that's not.
Right.
The guy, what's his salary at now is 33.2.
Yeah. You're not a 40-goal scorer. I hate to break it to you.
No, and in fact, his hands have become a little bit worse, right? Like, there were times where, like, I said it in that game where he got the breakaway.
Yeah.
The only person surprised were the Avs. That he didn't score.
Ryan Rashog had the funniest thing. He said, I think it was on the Morning Mandate with Dustin Nielsen there. He said that Natural Stat Trick is going to start not counting Zach Kassian breakaways as high danger chances.
Yeah. And it's, there's always some truth in a jest.
Yeah.
And so, he can't be on this team going into next year. Right? Like, there's some guys that are hanging on, and some stranger says on YouTube the Oilers don't have the consistency to go for the cup. They're still far from that. I would say that's some key pieces, right? And I think those pieces, I think with having your coach start the season, a good coach start the season and end the season, I think can change that. I think we finally got the right coach. A guy that knows how to utilize the lineup, a guy that I think the players want to play for, right? Like, I said it earlier on in the playoffs that we've never seen a real, genuine Connor McDavid in interviews and that until these playoffs. And I think some of that's, rubs off from Woodcroft. I don't want to give Woodcroft too much credit because obviously the players need to go out and play, but he's look, if you've watched Ted Lasso, I mean, he's Ted Lasso. That's exactly who he is. Like, he's the guy that he's a little bit of a down home kind of guy, like pretty easy to talk to. He's always smiling. I mean, how would you not want to play for that guy, right? And he's smart. He makes some good decisions. I thought he was outcoached in part of this series. Might have been, though, just the fact that he's playing with a lineup that was pretty injured.
Yeah.
I thought he overplayed. When I say that, I mean I thought he overplayed Nurse, which a lot of us agree on. I mean, you can't fault Nurse for that, but you can fault Manson and Woodcroft for putting him out there.
Yeah, I don't know what that really is. I thought earlier in the series Darnell had a tough time, and flipping him with Kulak would have been the play, but they didn't do that. I don't think that was really an issue today, but
yeah,
earlier in the series it sure was, though.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there were a lot of things, and look, you can.
I thought guys today, actually, it was a lot of heart. Leon, Darnell, Zach Hyman, McDavid.
Oh, it's great to watch, right? It kept us on our toes right till the end. I figured once it went into overtime, though, I wasn't hopeful.
No, I wasn't hopeful. I wasn't hopeful when Colorado took the lead. I thought that was her.
Yeah. I felt like if the Oilers didn't do it in regulation, I mean, it's just, especially given the fact that McDavid had already played 60 minutes. Yeah. I mean, you can't ask much more of him.
A Dylan Holloway, Peter Klima moment would have been all right.
Yeah. I mean, there were lots of things, Avs are good. So earlier on, I can't remember who asked it, but somebody asked, who do you think is going to win the Cup?
That series with New York and Tampa is interesting. I mean, it took Tampa, registering I think 50 shots to get a win. The next game I think in that series is going to be pivotal. Yeah, I mean, Colorado looks pretty good right now, but long layoff might not do them any favors other than getting Kadri back probably.
Yeah, it really doesn't do any favors for the team. I don't think, especially given. But you know what? They had a long layoff after the first round, and they didn't seem to have much problem going into St. Louis or playing against St. Louis. I think if Colorado doesn't win the Stanley Cup, it'll come down to goaltending. I mean, whatever goaltender comes out of the Eastern Conference is going to be the best goaltender
in the series.
Yeah. And, we'll see. Like, and probably if I was Colorado, I know there's a fellow on here, Matt Bender, he's an Avs fan. I'd be curious what his take is. But I'd probably start Frank Kuz if I was Bednar going into the finals because he gave you a good series.
Did you hear? I think it was Kelly Rudy saying that Frank Kuz has done his job, but they should start Kemper for the third period tonight.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like,
I mean, Frank Kuz did more than his job. Well, I mean,
it's only a 2-goal game.
Yeah.
It's just a 2-goal game, and it's not like he was letting in any stinkers.
Yeah. I think what makes it hard for me to decide who would win the Cup is some stranger says the Rangers have a good chance. It's because the Rangers have surprised me, right? Like the Rangers have surprised everyone, right? Nobody gave them. They gave them maybe even a worse chance than they gave the Oilers to come out of into the Western Conference Finals, and then to beat Tampa in the first two. Is pretty remarkable, and Shesterkin to outperform Vasilevsky, pretty remarkable. at that point, right? We've seen it, in years past. We saw it in Buffalo with Hasek. We saw it in Calgary with Kipper. Goalies sometimes, not sometimes. I mean, every season there's always the tale of a goalie in the playoffs, right? And Shesterkin could very well be that guy. And you know what? And if he's not, it's Vasilevsky.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what we saw today, if I went, down the lineup and down the depth, outside of the goaltending position, I would give the advantage to Colorado. They are solid up and down the lineup. I actually didn't realize they were as good as they are until this series. I knew they were good. I just don't think that I watched enough of them this year to realize that they were as solid and consistent down the lineup as they were.
As good of a pickup as it was to get Evander Kane for this club. I mean, look at Colorado's team, and then at the deadline, they bring in Josh Manson. I mean, that's a pretty solid pickup for them.
Yeah, he hit the boards hard tonight. That one, man, I didn't think he was getting back up. That surprised me. That's got to be hard for your dad sitting there on the bench, whether or not you're competing or not. They had a close up of him going sort of face first into the boards, and I expected him not to get up.
And then when him and Cassian were sort of jostling there, guy says on Twitter, he says, "Yeah, you're going to fight Josh, and then you're going to have to fight Dave."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and maybe that spells the end of Cassian in this lineup. We'll see. Yeah. Yeah. Bryce says, just wait. Black Mascari, who's just tuning in maybe for first comment tonight, he said the way the Oilers injured the Avs players, Tampa Bay or the Rangers win the cup. You know what? I don't know. I think, the Avs have a lot of time to heal. I don't think Kadri's injury was maybe as big as, say some other players. I think he's there was always the talk about he might be back, right? I think if the series had gone longer, we would have seen Kadri back.
To me, it depends on which thumb he actually broke to.
Dash says if we don't re-sign Kane, he's likely going to Calgary.
I doubt it.
I doubt that too.
Yeah.
Does that affect the Oilers' off-season strategy? And you know what? If Kane signs a long-term deal anywhere, good on him. My biggest fear in all of this is that he signs a long-term deal in Edmonton.
If the Flames are going to pay him $8 to $10 million a season, then they're not really. I think that means the end of either Gaudreau or Tkachuk, and they're a totally different team.
I would be scared that the Flames would give up on Gaudreau. I mean, I love the Flames keeping Gaudreau in the lineup. He is in regular season. He's a fun player to watch. I'll give him that. But come playoff time, I mean, history just keeps repeating itself with that guy, and he doesn't have the stuff to get it done.
I learned a valuable lesson this offseason too. When we beat Calgary, I swore to myself, be gracious in victory, and
yeah,
that's never happening again. The bullshit that I've seen the last 2 weeks, all of a sudden all these Flames fans moving to Denver to become Avalanche fans is no, you don't deserve any hospitality next time.
We got a couple of Avs fans that have been tuning in. Most of them have been pretty good sports. It's the comments after the fact that are hilarious, and definitely guys just trolling, doing search for any mention of the Avalanche and sending out some bad tweets. I'd be lucky if I'm going to be welcomed into Denver anytime soon. There's a lot of guys weren't too happy with me today. It's funny because I've, as look, I'm just trying to get people riled up, as you guys know. But I've seen some nasty things, mostly because I'm not looking for it with Oilers fans to Avs fans. I'll be fair. I'm not looking to see what Oilers fans are attacking Avs fans, because I know that happens too. There's assholes on both sides. but I've seen some pretty nasty Avs fans replying to Oilers fans' tweets, and some stuff getting pretty down and dirty. Was I ever surprised when you call a team of fans fair weather fans? Oh man, like, I could have called their mother ugly. They wouldn't have said anything, but don't call me a fair weather fan. I just, my notifications went through the roof. I had to shut it down for a little bit. Kind of funny, but good. You know what? On the plus side is it's nice to see that rivalry. Maybe that's something that we grow a lot, like the Dallas Edmonton rivalry that was. I thought the Calgary Edmonton rivalry didn't really amount to much this year, but actually, I which surprised me, and I think that surprised me a little bit too, is Avs fans seem a little bit, maybe because you said it earlier, they're on top, they're it's easy to chirp when you're on the top, but they were into it. They were right into it and giving it back to us Oilers fans and getting riled up and right into it. I've had a few already comment on some of my recent tweets, just to kind of rub it in that they swept the Oilers.
Yeah.
I actually expected more. I've only had a couple, so a couple of DMs and a couple of but it's what is what it is.
They're a good team. It's gonna take me a little bit to get over the fact that I'm hearing we haven't played our best game yet. Like that's gonna bug me for a little while, and I hope it bothers the guys in the room too, because you can't gift wrap games to a good hockey team. That's an easy way to get burnt, and they got burnt. So kudos to the Avalanche for that, because they definitely played their part in that as well. But I don't know, it's a little bit frustrating. Maybe that's the learning lesson that they need to learn is when you get into the playoffs and really any game you play in the regular season as well, but you have to have sort of that same mentality. I'll go back to the old Bulls. They showed up with the big suits and you knew you were in trouble, because they always had the same mindset, the same focus is, you play your bag off, whatever happens, but you don't save it. You can't.
Yeah, I do think though they, games 3 and 4, I don't know. This was a team that was just clearly outmatched against us. Like, they were just so good. Thanks, Chuck. Good having you on.
Well, today was kind of the first game in the series where the game was there. You had your opportunity and you let it slip.
Yeah.
Credit the Avalanche for taking it over, but
game
was there.
McKinnon, that's a clutch goal. That one to take the lead. All right, we're going to wind down here. Before we do, we're going to play a quick little game, and hopefully those of you on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook. Unfortunately, I can't see the Twitter comments. Would love to talk to you guys, but you can go, if you want to go right now, go to youtube.ca/heavyhockey. Please like and subscribe. This is who are we? This is, are they back next year or are they gone? I'm just going to go through a couple of key names and just say, I'll say what I think, you say what you think. We'll start with Zach Kassian. Is he back next year?
Oh man. I hope they can trade him.
Yeah, I would say no if they can. Warren Fogle. I think he's back next year.
He's got a 3-year deal, I think.
He's got 2 more left. Yeah.
He wasn't exactly lighting the lamp, but I think the way he played after sort of the LA series.
Yeah, after the couple games he sat, he came back with the burr in his saddle. It was great.
Yeah, and I liked his game the last 2 games for sure.
But there was a lot of talk for those fans that knew him that was the style that he played. Derek Ryan. He's got 1 year left, 1.25. I think he fights for a spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plays more of a Broussard type of role next year. Yeah. And that's what he played this year, right? Like he wasn't in the lineup every night, you know. But he's got some utility for this team.
I think if he has some line mates that are capable, that'll really help his cause.
Yeah. Devon Shore seems to get a lot of love from this team. Some would say it's misguided. He's got 1 year left, 850,000.
Yeah, these are the areas where you've got a guy that's, a good teammate and all of that. Maybe Matt Hendricks 2.0 sort of, but I think you have to try to improve a little bit. So maybe that's an area where you need to look at getting a little better.
Yeah, I'd let him go if you found a way, if you could find a way. Derek Brassard's the UFA. I don't think there's any chance we see him back.
No.
Kyle Turris, same thing. Evander Kane, what's your gut? Dash obviously says possibly Calgary. I don't think I couldn't see it, but maybe. Dash also said, by the way, some stranger said for Ryan, face-off guy. Dash says Fogel's not going anywhere. Jack says keep. Dash says 44 gone. Let's see. Keep Kane, says Jax. Your thoughts on Kane? I mean, this is going to be a big one.
Yeah. I think he came in and did everything he could have asked of the guy, except for maybe taking a suspension in game 3. But I don't think it happens. I think there's probably a want there, but I think the dollar amount makes it where it's just not possible.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be the big question mark, right? Is what does he command on the market? Obviously, he played well enough down the stretch that there are going to be teams interested in him, but he still has a lot of baggage. And to me, it's still a question mark. Like, he played well enough through the end of a series, right? But, I mean, if he's going to want something long-term, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that would scare me away from that deal. So,
well, there's 2 attitudes to that, and I'm with you because I kind of feel the same way. Because anytime he's been somewhere for longer than a couple of seasons, it's kind of went south. So I've got that in my mind too. But I guess if you're gunning for a Stanley Cup in the next 2 years, you might say just whatever, just go get a cup and worry about what happens. But I think the mathematics just make it, out of their reach.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, time's going to tell. Obviously, the Oilers have a little bit of leeway to talk to him before free agency starts. Josh Archibald, I think he's gone. Your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, you took him out of the lineup the last 2 games of the season. I think that tells me you've probably seen enough to, where you're pulling them out of kind of those pressure cooker games. Yeah, I don't know.
Now here's so that's all the UFAs and a couple of guys with contracts. We're moving into the RFAs. This is on the forward side. 3 big RFAs up for grabs. 2 of them with arbitration rights, and Jesse Puljujarvi and Kyler Yamamoto, and then Ryan McLeod, who doesn't have arbitration rights. Your thoughts on Puljujarvi?
Yeah, I like the kid. I think he plays a pretty responsible game. Team didn't abandon ship on him when that could have been something that was easily done. So I don't know if they're thinking they want something else. I somehow think there's going to be a negotiation there, and it's not a done deal either way. Um, yeah, I think if you were probably going to trade him, you would have done it while he was holding out, and you didn't do it then. So you held on to that asset, and
So I'm going to have to look at comparables for him. Obviously, at arbitration, he could hold out for arbitration, and we'll see what he can get. Just going to YouTube, talking about these three, we've got Jack says keep McLeod and Yamo, so I assume Yessi goes. Some stranger says Yamo keeper, Yessi gone. John Wynn says I like 13, but we need 56. So kind of a bit of a theme there is Yamamoto's obviously a priority over Puljujarvi. I'd say the same. Now here's what I think. I think
it hinges on Kane getting done.
I think that's a big thing, right? It and I think McLeod's for sure, right? Like to be somebody messed up if McLeod's not on this team. It's just curious what'll happen with him. But I think there's two things at play. One is if they don't sign Kane, and then they don't sign Puljujarvi, it tells me that we really don't have an analytics department at the Oilers, right? Because his fantasy stats are still really good, and I think you've got time, over the off season, you work with them, a couple different things. You got time with Woodcroft and Manson to work with him. You at least have to qualify something over to him. We'll see. But if Kane is signed, then Puljujarvi is definitely gone. Maybe for nothing, maybe for like a couple of picks and or something in the later rounds, just for the rights to negotiate with them. Who knows? Anyway, that's my thought. All right, let's go down to defense. Let's start on goalie because that's a quick one. Koskinen's gone. I don't think anybody in this world thinks he's back. In fact, I heard that he signed with somebody in the KHL. Did you hear that?
I heard rumors on that, but I don't know how that actually works. Like, how does a KHL team have negotiating rights with a player that's under contract in the NHL right now? I don't know how that actually works. Like, I didn't think they could start talking to him until July 1st or something like that, but I got to admit, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I think everybody would be surprised if we see him back. Mike Smith.
He's not back.
Mike Smith, I think we see him back for another season. I don't think we see him as the starter. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess that brings into question, what do you do with Stuart Skinner? Is he become your starter next year, or are you keeping him in the AHL for another season? Because I don't believe you can bring him up and send him down next year without him having
no,
to
you can't. He'll have to
clear
waivers. Yeah,
and that won't happen. So
yeah, he's got 1 year left too before he's an RFA.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's starter material right off the bat. Like I think he would be a pretty serviceable backup, but I don't think he's a starter. And I think we saw what happens when Mike Smith's your starter. I don't want to really rail on him, but I kind of think it just wasn't quite where it needs to be.
Yeah, the unfortunate here is where Skinner plays into this mix, right? And the fact that Holland signed Smith to an extra year.
Right.
You could buy Smith out.
Yeah, you could go that route. You go back to the future and sniff around for Cam Talbot, who kind of got the shaft in mini.
So there goes. I was saying there's some good Avs fans that have been been in there. We got this comment from D17. I think that's his IQ. It says, rest in peace, big mouths in Edmonton. Go Avs, go. Good luck in the lottery next year, posers. Oh, nice. All right.
Yeah, so he's
Yeah.
got a healthy grasp of how the lottery
Yeah,
actually works.
exactly. Oh, he's one of the guys that got. He's one of the guys that was triggered by the fair weather tweet. All right, I love it. I love it. Well, thanks for tuning in. Thanks
So
for
an
adding to the views.
IQ of 17, does that mean he can breathe on his own, or
Yeah, I don't know. Just in fair weather. Just in fair weather. Some stranger says we'll find out about Skinner next year, and no point in keeping Smitty. Yeah. So yeah, I look. If I was Holland and I had the opportunity, I'd buy out Smith or send him somewhere if you could, if there was any hope of that, because I'd want Skinner in the lineup, but I'd want somebody else as the starter. Like
Yeah.
Skinner's not the answer for this team to make it to the Cup.
if you do a tandem 1A 1B, I think that would.
Yeah, I don't even want Skinner as a tandem. Like I want him to spend a year as a backup in the league. Yeah. I think we need a legitimate starter, and that would be my play. But we'll see. All right, let's talk about defense, and then we'll call it a night. Darnell Nurse obviously coming back. Hopefully, I don't know how long recovery from hip flexor tear takes, but he's obviously he's not going anywhere with the contract he's got.
Yeah.
He could be gone until, I don't know, could be gone into the season. We'll see. I think more will be known about that. Duncan Keith, he's got a single year left. If you hear talk about him, it doesn't sound like he's going anywhere. And if you listen to Stauffer, it sounds like he might get extended. Yeah.
8 years, $9 million. Yeah,
That's right. We might have Duncan Keith until he's playing into his 50s. Tyson Barrie, we've talked about. Right?
Yeah, I think there's, probably I think there should be at least some thought into changing your defense a little bit. Like, I wouldn't be sad. Like I didn't mind. I thought Barrie had a pretty good playoffs. I wasn't upset with him by any means, but I think you need to change a little bit of the makeup of your D, and get a little harder to play against. So, if he's your third pairing guy, can Niemelainen fill his role, in a third pair? And I think the answer to that is probably yeah. And then it changes the dynamic of your D. You go from having sort of two offensive right-handed defensemen to having one offensive right-handed defenseman and one bone cruncher. And I'd be on board with that.
Yeah. And what's the word on Oscar Klefbom? I mean, he's got 1 year left under contract. He hasn't retired. So, I mean, here's the downside to all of this. If he wants to come back and he doesn't want to retire, we either and he doesn't come back good, then that's a real challenge for the team, right? Like, what do you do with him? I mean, I haven't heard actually. Jack says Oscar who? Man, what do you do with that? Some stranger says Klefbom is done. I think, and that's the thing is he's got to retire, right? Otherwise, you have to buy him out or pay. I'm fairly certain that's a one-way. It's a modified no trade.
Do you retain his rights then? Like, how does that work
if he retires?
Well, I guess if he wants to come back 2 years from now, what happens there? Is he a unrestricted
he's
free agent?
UFA. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a UFA.
And wouldn't that be weird? Like, if he didn't come back next year, but wanted to come back the year after that would be.
I mean, the ideal situation in my mind is he doesn't come back at all, right? And the contract's off the books. Unless having said that, I mean, the guy was a good, solid defenseman, right? And
if he comes back now, that really throws a wrench into their whole setup, though.
Yeah.
Like, then you're thinking of either trading him or trading Broberg or trading somebody, because.
But if he comes back and he's any good,
you got a logjam on the left
right?
side.
If he comes back and he's any good, then
if he comes back and he isn't.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't heard, and frankly, I haven't really been looking for it, but I haven't heard anything from him.
I just saw like he was playing tennis or something like that.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah. So I mean, that's not an easy game to play with a lot of side to side movement, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's that'll be an interesting one to see. Okay, so that's Clefbaum.
He had a shoulder injury though, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, swinging a racket if your shoulder's buggered. Yeah.
But there was a chance that he could play, like he had surgery, shoulder surgery.
Yep.
And there was a chance that he was going to play this season. And so, but taking a full season off and not hearing whether he's skated or anything, obviously, if he wants to come back, he's been doing some skating, shoulder or not. It's just interesting because, that's $4 million, right?
Yeah.
It's a big cap space. He hasn't played for a season. But, hey, if he comes back and he's anywhere near how good he was before he left, you've got Clefbaum, you've got Nurse, and you've got Cody Ceci. I'm all right with those three. Cody Ceci performed way better than anyone expected. He was solid every night. And then you've got to get rid of Barry. Like Barry is got to be a trade, and you've got to find a place for Broberg. Like, I don't think you can, you can let Broberg sit much longer.
Right.
Right. In fact,
you still have a problem. I mean, you've got Nurse, Keith, Kulak, and Clef. There's a logjam on the left side. And
having said all those names, the defense is still not good enough. Right. Like you got to have Clefbaum back and as good as he was to start considering if the defense will be good enough. And then you need one of these guys to step up, like Niemelainen, or, to be a bit of a surprise on the back end. Be really hard to play against. And Kulak, I think another season in Edmonton, if he comes back and he's a UFA. But I think he'll want to come back. Like, it's home for him. He's probably enjoyed playing, in front of family.
He showed well.
Yeah, he did well. I think he had some fun in the playoffs. Well, that's everybody. That's it. I mean, this is we're gonna. So just to give everybody an update, and thanks for tuning in. It was a good audience tonight across all the different platforms. Some Avs fans, a little bit of fun chirping going on both ways. A lot of everything. You know what? It's been in my mind, it's been a great season. Mike, you'll get the last word tonight. Obviously, that's how I do it here. We're gonna keep going. We'll have streams throughout the off season. Come around, draft time and also free agency, maybe awards time, some other things, and maybe we'll do one post Stanley Cup. We'll see. But some stranger just said should be an interesting summer. I think it will be, and lots will be known and decided. And I'm sure there'll be some surprises. There'll be some groans and might be some cheers, and we'll see what happens. I hope to see the core of this team back, obviously, and everybody well. Hopefully, Draisaitl's injury. I didn't watch the post-game presser tonight, so I don't know how bad it is, but we knew it was a high ankle sprain at one point, so I assume that, it's something that time will heal. Yeah, I just say, again, thanks to everybody for tuning in. Sorry to see the Oilers get swept by the Avs, but if you're going to get swept by a team, you want it to be a team like the Avalanche, that really deserve to be going to the Stanley Cup final. See McKinnon in his first Stanley Cup final will be a treat. I know that I've got some Avs fans watching tonight, but I will say this: I'm probably not going to cheer for them just because they beat us, and you know what? I think it's going to be a rivalry in the upcoming years, but it should be good to see McKinnon and Makar, who I knew he was good, but I just didn't realize how good. Maybe the guy's a beast as well, so. That'll be good. And so as we go into next year, we'll see what happens. Hope you guys keep coming back. Make sure you like and subscribe for tonight. And as well, feel free to follow on Twitter. I'm at Oilerslive. Mike's at Mike Dirsa. My DMs and everything are open. And I can tell you that that's a fact because I get some pretty nasty grams sometimes too with some of the trolling that I do back. Yeah, send me a message if you got any feedback. Maybe you want to be on the show. Maybe you want to contribute to the Heavy Hockey Network. In fact, if you want to contribute, it's not just Oilers content we're looking for. We're looking for content across the NHL. Whether it's maybe doing a podcast or a live stream or something else, we can always add and have more people. It's honestly, it's been one of the best experiences I've had since I put this group of contributors together, and the playoffs have been a lot of fun, mainly because of how great this heavy hockey group is. And so, just a good, solid, quality group of guys. And I hope to just add to that. And whether it's, Avs fans that want to do some content or anybody else, that's it. Oh, Chuck's asking, who are my picks to win? I am going to go with, I hate to say it, I think Tampa Bay is going to win their third in a row. So that's my pick. I think they're going to come back and take care of the Rangers, and I think they'll beat the Avalanche, but time will tell. Time will tell. I know Avs fans are hoping I'm wrong. That's it for me. Thanks again, and I'm going to pass it off to Mr. Mike Dirsa for the last word. I'm out of here. Go ahead, Mike.
So, we're having an episode with my dad earlier in the year, and my dad was going to go off on Dave Tippett losing the room. And that didn't happen because the Oilers kind of turned it around a little bit, and then the wheels fell off the bus, and Dave Tippett kind of did lose the room, and things were looking really bleak. We were going through this big spell of not being able to win a game, and decision was made to cut Dave Tippett loose. And Woody the Woodpecker, Jay Woodcroft, was brought in, and the team turned around and took us on a little bit of a run here, beating Calgary in the first Battle of Alberta in the playoffs in forever. Was delicious, and there wasn't even really much battle in that Battle of Alberta. It was for me, it was almost like a little bit of a letdown. I was expecting a lot more spirited hockey, and we really didn't get that. We just took it to the Flames, and they had no pushback. And maybe the emotional part of that kind of series, the first Battle of Alberta and whatever, and all the hype and the province on fire and two buildings going nuts, kind of got us into a false sense of security when we played Colorado. Not to take anything away from Colorado, because they're a hell of a team, but you get into that series against Calgary, and it's so hyped up and built up, and I think this team is still kind of learning some of the lessons you need to learn along the way. just hearing Tyson today talk about not playing their best game, and Connor was saying it, I think, after game 2, or maybe it was game 3 and or whatever, but that we still haven't played our best game. Well, when you get up against really good teams, you can't afford to take a night off or you get burnt. And once you get burnt, it's tough to win a game as it is when you're playing at your best. But when you gift games, you make it easier on the other team. And from that aspect, I'm a little disappointed in this team, but it's the first time they've been this far, together. So make a few changes in this off season and retool. And you can't just maintain, you have to get better. You have to look at the areas that need to improve and make some adjustments. And I hope that is what happens this summer. I'm really thinking this team is 2 years away from hoisting a Stanley Cup, but maybe next year it's going beyond the Western Conference Finals and getting to that Stanley Cup. But you know what? Nothing's guaranteed. So, you can easily be a dominant team through the regular season and things look great and get bounced in the first round. So have a good off season. Everybody go to work, get healthy, and get back after it. Probably next time we'll do anything major is probably draft time, I'm thinking, but sad to see it being over, but glad we got a bit of a run and we didn't go through that depression state that we were all in through those 11 or 12 games with Tippett there where it did not look good at all and we were on life support. Keep your sticks on the ice, keep reaching for the stars, and go where they go.